Hello, I am John Sapau from Ghana, and in this presentation I'm going to reflect on proactivism in a changing educational arena 2020 and 2030. A presentation I watched, and it was a recorded version of the live presentation. And in this reflection, I will summarize what I've watched, or I'll give the synopsis, and I'll go ahead to show what I've learned and what I've planned to do. Synopsis of the presentation. Dr. Ossiannilsson welcomed participants and said the presenter has presented in Canada, Australia, and other countries. Dr. Ossiannilsson also said participants should tell where they are from in the chat. Dr. Ossiannilsson said it seems the video that we'll be watching is better than the YouTube one, and spoke about it briefly. Dr. Ossiannilsson said the speaker will introduce herself. The speaker took over and said this is her third time on model, and that's what I'm sure it may be model mock. She mentioned the topic she will be speaking on and said that open education is all. She mentioned places she works. She said she had her PhD by distance. She had the view that it is high time we start doing something about education. And I believe that we need to have a second look at education. We shouldn't be following the status quo. Technology is emerging. She added that there are needs for proactivism in a changing educational arena towards 2020 and 2030. And for instance, institutions have to collaborate internally. At the same time, they need to compete. She mentioned some countries where participants came from in the chat. She said technology is changing, and the main drivers of education are technology and the labor market. She spoke about labor market trends and demands and ICT trends and explained them explicitly. She talked about how we could transform our education and training systems. She spoke about open education and stated that opening up education means bringing the digital revolution into education. Now, before I continue, we look at this. Opening up education means bringing the digital revolution to education. To me, it's like reaching out to people who are in remote areas, but there is connectivity there. The university can reach out to them and they can learn, like what Model MOOCs is doing as of now. She asked the participants in the chat about their opinion about digital technologies allow all individuals to learn anywhere, anytime, through any device with the support of anyone. She said learning is all about network and confidence. She explained EC recommendation for higher education on opening up education. One of the recommendations was review of organizational strategies. She listed others and explained. She spoke extensively on NMC 2014 report. She explained some of the elements of the report. One of the elements was how students will shift from being consumers to being creators. And I'm sure it has been high time students will create their own stuff rather than consuming. And other elements that she talked about and said we need to face them. She also spoke about how young people need to be engaged. She paused to have responses from the chat on engaging students. She talked about motivation and emotion in technology and gave some elements of the creative classroom research model, of which assessment is one of them. Bloom's digital taxonomy and learning design, especially 21st century learning networks, were discussed judiciously. She spoke about rhizome and serendipity forms of learning and said learning is not in linear form, but that is what our educational system does. And I'm sure I'll agree to some extent that it is always like that, even in Africa. That is, everyone starts at the same time, pass through the same pace. She said in her country, for example, 2-year kids with digital technology, and they will be in our universities by 2020. And what must we do? We need to start thinking and also even work more on open education by 2030. Dr. Nelly came in and said there are a lot of comments but not questions in the chat, where the presenter asked whether there are questions. The presenter gave out her detail, the contact details. There were arguments about why one needs certificate from a university. Someone was like, the university are just there like issuing certificate. Dr. Nelly thanked the presenter, and after that there was a brief discussion on online environment between the presenter and Dr. Nelly. What I've learned that many educational associations are not proactive, and if the trend continues like this in this era of technology, the institutions need not blame anyone in the future. I've also learned about the drivers of education in the 21st century and the Bloom's digital taxonomy. What I have planned to do, I'll focus more on emerging technology that could be used in education and let my students also know about them. I will also make sure that I have the idea of rhizome learning, so that I will not always go about learning as being linear. And I will make sure I let management of my university be abreast of open education so that they plan for it. I will consider the motivation and emotion factor in my online course design. Thank you for watching.